Hey, everybody. Stu Smith here going live. I hope you are doing well this Tuesday morning. Not sure where you are in the world, but got a little colder here in Maryland. Dropped down to 32 with a small snow flurry while we were outdoors working out. A little odd to see, but interesting enough. Got a good little track workout done. Something we've been doing lately with our track workouts is we do a little squat pyramid to warm up. Then we jog to the track, which takes about a mile to get there. Then when we get there, we do what I call 100 hundreds, where you do 100 fast, 100 jog yards or meters every minute on the minute. You do it for 10 minutes. Sometimes we do it for 15. We've even done it for 20. That sucks. Lately, we've just been sticking to 10 and getting fast 100, jog back every minute on the minute. You get like 10 seconds rest usually. Sometimes, if you're a little slower, you might be turning around on the mark, set, go mark. So you're just constantly moving. In fact, if you were to just jog it, if you do the math here, if you just jog it at a um, 30 seconds down, 30 seconds back, that's a minute. And that's the pace that would go to uh, before you have to go again, which is about an 8-minute mile. So not that hard, but where the challenge happens is boom, you hit it hard for the 100, jog back, and it balances out to roughly close to a minute, maybe 10 seconds break. And then you turn around, do it again, 10 rounds. Then we do 4 800s at your goal mile pace for timed runs. And we rest with some squats and lunges. Then we run the bleachers for 10 minutes, up and down, straight back and forth, up and down, 10 minutes. And that's a good one. We usually get like 3 to 4 round trips on the bleachers per minute. So probably about 2 flights up, 2 flights down type of distance for these bleachers. Then we do a walking lunge around the entire track, and we jog back, do a little squat pyramid on the way back in reverse. That last mile, call it a day, go swimming. Now we just got through swimming with fins, and might put in a little lift in the afternoon where we're assessing some things right now. um, Primarily, we're just doing assessments of our lift cycle just to see where we finished off, see if people actually got stronger, see if they gained weight. Um, as we're about to ramp up next week into our first week of spring, thank goodness, made it through the dark ages. And we're going to ramp up continuously throughout the spring and into the summer, progressively with running and higher repetitions. Though every fourth week we'll do a little lift deload just to slow down the progression a little bit on the run, so we're not constantly linearly progressing. See how it works. We've been doing that for a while now. Um, got a got a response the other day from someone who says, "Help! I think I'm overtraining," and there's a lot to overtraining, right? It's it depends. It depends on your current fitness level because someone's warm up could be someone else's overtraining. And it also depends on how well you recover, which is a function of your conditioning, but it's also a function of you actually addressing recovery, meaning you sleep well, you eat well, you hydrate, you take your electrolytes if you're sweating profusely. All of these little things are very important to whether or not you are truly recovering from a hard day workout or 2 days or two workouts in a day, even. It can be done. You just have to aggressively pursue your recovery. Otherwise, you may not be overtraining, you may be under recovering. Some people say it's the same thing, but I've seen both. Most of the time, people are under recovering, they're not overtraining. Sometimes it happens, people do overtrain, but it's usually they just did too much too soon, that someone who's been conditioned, that wouldn't have been an overtraining response. It would have been just a regular workout. So yes, can you overtrain? Absolutely. Can you under recovery? Most likely the situation. So really focus on your recovery first if you think you're overtraining. And then if you need to pull back on your recovery, I'm sorry, on your training, that's fine. Take a mobility day, maybe do 2 mobility days in a week. That's a really great way to take the bite off if you think you're not recovering well or you're overdoing it. Now, there's a laundry list of things that, in fact, I post this one up every now and then. In fact, I'll share it with you, and you can see the laundry list of what overtraining is. In fact, this is an article that I wrote. I'll share it with you guys so you guys can pull it up yourself. It's called Training Overload, When Less is More. Sometimes less is more. But I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'll read some of these off to you. Fatigue, lethargy, that's kind of subjective. You're just kind of dragging ass. Heavy muscles, persistent soreness, that's objective. If you're sore all the time, inability to complete a routine training day, underperformance basically is what's happening. Mood disturbances. This is usually where my wife says, I think you're overtraining, especially if I get a little snippy or something like depression, loss of appetite, increased fluid, loss of competitive drive, joy in life, loss of libido, apathy, anxiety, irritability. That's probably the most common one right there. People just irritable easier. Um, Weight loss, weight gain, lymph nodes swollen. That's an interesting one. Um, Stomach disturbances for women, menstruation, loss of menstruation, increased resting heart rate. That's a real big one, and it's a real easy one to check. Like if you know your resting heart rate, which you should, like first thing in the morning, take your heart rate before you even get up, before you even start thinking about the day, because just by thinking of the day, you can elevate your heart rate. So the minute you wake up, just take your heart rate, measure it for 15 seconds, look at your watch, count how many beats per 15 seconds, and then multiply by 4. You got your how many beats you've done in a minute. Typically, you should be under a minute, probably closer, some are under 50, some are even under 40. So it really depends on your conditioning where your lower heart rate is or your resting heart rate is. Now, if it's elevated, let's say you're normally 55 first thing in the morning and it's 75, could definitely be an indicator you're overtraining. Excessive sweating, constant minor infections, that's a big one. Upper respiratory infections, that's very common, especially if you're running really hard. Sometimes just by running hard, you can aggravate your um, bronchial tubes. And if you're running hard in pollen, like spring pollen, that can definitely aggravate it as well, or pollution. Increased submax VO2 heart rate. Um, we just talked about slow return of heart rate to normal after exercise. That's a good one. Your lack of recovery from like a hard set, like those 100 that we talked about earlier. If you're having a really hard time in that 10-second rest to get back to being able to do it normally, could be a symptom. Could be conditioning too. And then other sleep disturbances. That's a big one. Whether you're waking up in the middle of the night, can't sleep, nightmares, waking in the middle, or sorry, waking unrefreshed. I will say this: nightmares or weird dreams. When I would work out really hard at night after dinner, and then a few hours later would go to sleep, I would have weird dreams from that. So I kind of became a morning workout guy. In the evening, I kind of go low intensity. But if you go high intensity, hard workouts in the evening, you could Not that that's a indicator of overtraining. It's just sometimes I get um, head case a little bit after working out at night, um, and in my sleep. Another one is that's not on this list is grip. That is another one. So get a there's like these little dynamometers that measure your grip. You can actually measure your grip and see what it is, or you can just grab a plate and see how long you can hold it. Know what that standard is, and then if you cut it off by 50%, um, because you can't do it for 50% of what you normally could be overtraining. So weakened grip is also another really good one. So yeah, overtraining. What is it? So how do we deal with it? We usually deal with it with eating and sleeping better. Number one, make sure that's dialed in, and then if that if you need to take an easy day the next day, maybe instead of your normal 100% effort, drop it down to 50, 60%, and do the workout, keep the same time, but just pull back a little bit on the intensity. And if that doesn't work, you might want to take a day off. There's nothing wrong with a day off. Just don't do it too many times and you lose the habit of working out. All right, what kind of questions do we have? Cameron came in and asked about how do we deal with injuries related to running. Um, there's a whole lot of things that can happen when you run, especially if you're not used to running. In fact, 50% of all runners get injured every year. So you need to learn how to deal with these injuries. Personally, I've probably had just about every running injury you can have. I've had stress fractures, I've had shin splints, I've had knee tendonitis, I've had sprained ankles, I've had plantar fasciitis, had hip injuries, lower back injuries, pulled hamstrings, pulled calf muscle. Haven't had Achilles tendonitis. That's one I haven't had. Yeah. But how do you deal with all those? Just the way you would any other injury. You're probably going to have to alter your running program. Either if you injured yourself sprinting, like pulled hamstring or maybe a pulled groin with some agility stuff, you might still be able to get away with jogging, but you might not. It just depends on the pain. So if it hurts, I have a rule with running injuries. If it hurts to run, stop running. If it hurts to walk, don't run. And if it hurts sitting down on the couch doing nothing, go to a doctor. That's how I deal with running injuries. So if it's not hurting um, while I'm running, I'm pretty cool with that, and I'm going to keep going. And where you can do that is you warm up real well. Let's say you got some mild tendonitis, maybe knee tendonitis or something. You warm that up. It might hurt a little bit during the warm ups, but then all of a sudden it goes away because you got some blood in there, a little more pliable. You can go do your run workout. Now, you need to lick your wounds after that if you know you're nursing some tendonitis. Maybe not go as hard, maybe not go as far because you need to pull back a little bit on some of that mileage. But, if you mix in some decent stretches of the muscles around that joint that's got some tendonitis, you do some massage, maybe massage tools, foam rollers, whatever that feels comfortable to you. You can definitely run through some of those mild tendonitis injuries, and that can be patella tendonitis, it can be PFS or ITB. Shin splints are a tougher one. That's a tougher one to run through. You need to really fix your shoes. You need to find softer ground. Like today, I had a guy who was running on the sidewalk to get to the track, and his shins hurt. And I said, "Well, instead of running on the even this rubberized track, let's run on the inside turf and see how that feels." And it felt better for him. So he was able to still get through the workout. And whenever we ran back, he just kind of walked, jogged a little bit, and found some grass to run on versus running on the concrete sidewalk to get back to where we started. So you got to play around with it a little bit. Either take the day off from running, replace it with biking or swimming or something like that, or try to work around that injury smartly to where you're not overdoing it again. And just remember, if it hurts to run, stop running. Good question. There's a lot to unravel with that little question for sure. A dumb thing and a dumb question of which I never thought until now, but scissors are 4 count or just normal count. You know what? Some people do them 4 count, one, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2. Some people just say open, 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 open. So make it more of a open 1, open 2, open 3. All right, let's see. Do you think the place we run, like a hard floor in an inclined park mixed with curves, for example, can affect your recovery or even give more shin splints than the usual? Um, it's possible. You know, hard floors, concrete floors, not the best to run in. In fact, I would rank running um running ground as such. Concrete is the worst. Asphalt is next to worst. After that, I would say rubberized track is pretty darn good. Dirt is up there. Grass is in that zone. Turf on the inside of that rubberized track is even nicer, a little less impact. And then maybe a soft sand beach run is even less impactful than the others. So that's where I rank flooring, if you will, or ground for running. If it hurts, go with the softer option or do less running. I'm 6 foot, 200, have small wrists. How bad will that affect me and Buds working on forearm gains? Aren't small wrists better? From Golden Corral. Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you could work forearms that way, but I mean, your wrist is nothing but bones. Now, your forearms, that's a different story. Yes, you can work your forearm muscles here. Is that going to make your wrist stronger? Perhaps, because it's a unique forearm is pretty neat. Like all these little muscles here or all these finger moving here is all in my forearm. Like you can feel your forearm working when you move your hand. So hand strengthening, wrist strengthening, whatever you want to do to strengthen your wrist, go for it. But yeah, forearm exercises will do that. And you need to work on your grip too. So, I mean, all of that is very important. I be honest with you, I don't know small wrists, big wrists. There's a difference. If you have small forearms, that would be something you need to work on. Whether or not small wrists or big wrists are better or not, I don't know. Fully agree. I run on concrete here, and the shoes will not last for 3 months. Yeah, you know what? If you're going to run on concrete, you're going to have to change your shoes every 3 months for sure, because they just don't last. Do you have any advice for rucking and back strengthening rotations? Thank you, sir. Um, Everything. Yes, we ruck, but ruck progressively. Maybe start off with a weight vest and walk, then build up to a backpack and walk, then build up to a backpack and power walk, add a little more weight, power walk, and then slowly turn it into a shuffle, which is more like a running stride movement. Um, there's an article I wrote called "What is a Ruck," and it explains those three paces. And I've written some on. In fact, CNN even did a rucking article. They interviewed me in a rucking article. Here, check this out. So sometimes writers will interview me for various things. So rucking, what is it? Train for rucking. Let's see, rules of rucking. That's a good one. So I got a lot of rucking articles here that may help you. A lot of it has to do with foot care. Let me see here. Get out of this. Even did a podcast with rucking with an army dude, which was really good. What is a ruck? Here we go. So I got a whole bunch of rucking articles in here for you. So check those out. Did deadlifts yesterday. Feels good for the forearms. Yeah, absolutely. Deadlifts are a great way, and also for rucking, deadlifts and squats, great way to build your lower back for strengthening exercises. Deadlifts, especially, uh, can be a kettlebell, can be an RDL, can be squats and lunges. Another great one is grab a sandbag like this in your like on your biceps, holding it like this, and lunge with it. I call it chest carry lunges. It's almost like you're simulating lunging with a log for log PT. That's a really good way to also build your biceps are going to need that endurance, but also when you have that extra weight here and you're lunging, you're going to feel it in the lower back too. It's almost like a little mini RDL, with a lunge. So yeah, check out those some of those articles. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh yeah, you guys see my something I have not done. In fact, this is my first time ever doing it. I did a general discharge package unveiling video. Took like 5 minutes, and they sent me. I was telling them about some recon stuff that I'm working on with some local kids, and they said, "Oh, let us send you your recon package and let us know what you think." And I said, "Well, if you send it to me and given me all this stuff, I'll do a video for you, and you know maybe it help you sell more, right?" So it was a nice gift, but I did a little thing. It has a ruck in it, has water pouch, it has rope to tie all the recon knots. Lot of other good stuff too. What else has foam rollers and massage tools? For all those little aches and pains that you get. But the ruck and the sandbag and how to make the sandbag really, really key in there. So I was impressed by it. They did a good job with that thing. And they also put my recon workout book. So like, workouts like this, that come in a little um, easy to use spiral bounding. Um, the recon Marsoc workout is also in it. So you get a lot in that package. Let's see. I think the worst experience in running I ever had was running on stone gravel track. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's not fun. That could be bad. I didn't think about gravel. Gravel's up there with potentially hard, but not as hard as concrete. I think concrete's harder. Stu, do you like low reps, high weight, or high reps, easy weight? I like both. In fact, we do both. During our lift cycles, we get pretty heavy. Um, we get as high as a 1 rep max. A lot of times I like to see, on lifts instead of really doing a 1 rep max, because the last thing I want to do is get people injured, especially with deadlifts or squatting. A 1 rep max is guys that are training to be tactical athletes when they got to be good at everything. They're not just power lifters. Um, we usually will do a set goal. Like, can you deadlift 1.5 times your body weight 5 times? So a 200-pound guy can do 300 pounds 5 times. That's good. That's really good. Can you do twice your body weight? 200-pound guy do 400 pounds. And once you're in that 1.5 to 2 times your body weight on lifts like deadlifts and squats, you're strong enough to do any spec ops tactical job or any job in the tactical professions for that matter. You don't need to be a world class power lifter, don't need to be a world class swimmer or a world class runner or do workouts that world class swimmers, runners, and lifters do. In fact, that's one way to really screw yourself up. If you look at what a runner does, they're probably running 60, 80 miles a week or more. Some of them run even more than that, depending on what distance they're running. Lifters are cranking out crazy body weight, 2, 3 times their body weight for reps. And, it's very impressive. And swimmers are swimming, what, 10 grand a day, probably 5 to 10,000 meters a day. If you're flirting with any of those type of numbers, you're doing way too much. Talk about overtraining. The unboxing video you made was great and funny also. It was nice seeing you throwing those things around. I hope you will do more of these in the future. Well, yeah, I may do those. I wasn't sure where to put them in my living room, so I just threw them onto the chair next to me, then cleaned up after the video was done. Any way to deal with sleep deprivation in the military courses? You know what? I'll be honest with you. No one really told us how to deal with that. Um, whenever you're going through like Hell Week, SEAL training or night ops and SF and Ranger training, you're not sleeping. You've been up for all day for 18 plus hours, and you're going to be working all night. Um, some caffeine may help you get through that. But at the same time, it's as long as you have something to do and you're doing it with other people, it's real easy to stay awake. Um, yeah, you might nod off like this when you're paddling a boat for 8 hours, and people do. But um, it's you're always doing something, so staying awake is really one of the least things you need to worry about, especially when you're going through Hell Week, because it's a constant evolution. And whenever you sit still for a minute, you will fall asleep naturally. Like if you win a race and you got 15 minutes before the next group comes in and they're saying, okay, sit down, and everybody sits down and everybody's asleep within like 45 seconds. I mean, it's like, and then you wake up, remember where you are, and you get back going again. But be honest with you, I really don't have any advice for it other than other than it's not as hard as you think it is. Like if you're staying up on your own doing whatever you do to keep you busy, that's more difficult than going through and training where they're constantly testing you physically to keep moving. um something I will tell you this, like like questions like that is kind of like causes a lot of anxiety with these type of training programs. So I will tell you this. Yesterday we did a little show on Hell Week, and the one thing I forgot to tell you was the 2 hardest times of Hell Week. And don't get me wrong when I say this, Hell Week itself is very tough, but the 24 hours prior to Hell Week was really hard, mainly just because of the anticipation and anxiety of it getting started. Like you can't relax, you can't go to sleep. You're almost up for an extra day um, waiting for Hell Week to start. Um, you're just fired up to go. And then when it starts, you're like, okay, finally, let's do this. And all the anxiety goes away. It's like you're not nervous anymore because Hell Week started. Now you just got to get through each event one at a time. And the other really bad time was the 24 hours after Hell Week, because that's when all the adrenaline that you've been running on for 5 days dumps. And now you got no more adrenaline in your system. It's dumping. It's, and the pain sets in, the discomfort from all the chafing, and everything starts burning if you got chafing, and joints are swollen. All you want to do is get clean, and you got sand everywhere. Takes you like 3 baths just to get clean again. That was the worst. Those 2 times are probably the worst parts of Hell Week. And yes, don't get me wrong, Hell Week sucked for 120 hours. But mentally, I would say, and physically, those were the worst times. Let's see. Thomas, do you recommend to do the 1-10-1 pyramid, but instead of push-ups, do dips with a goal of strengthening more shoulders and triceps and gain a little more size than from push-ups? You know what? We did a 1-10-1 yesterday, and we added dips and push-ups. So you actually had pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, dips. And it was a really good way to double up on the push. And some guys, instead of multiplying by 1 on the pull-ups, multiplied by 2. And they tried as much as they could to go up the 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10, multiplying pull-ups by 2. And they even multiplied push-ups times 3. So there are so many other ways to make it harder, just by a simple multiplication change to it, or adding another exercise to it. If you don't feel like doing sit-ups every time because you're not getting tested at sit-ups, some people don't anymore. Most of us do. If you're going in that spec ops world, you will still do sit-ups, so you need to practice them. You can do plank poses. Maybe instead of doing 300 sit-ups, you do 150, 200, but you balance it out with some knee ups, or throw in flutter kicks, or just mix it up a little bit and work those hip flexors. Yes, but definitely add dips. In fact, I like to do both. Sir, I do 400 push-ups each day as a challenge. I'm sorry to tell you this, academic nerd, but that's stupid. And if you feel pain in your right shoulder, that's because you do 400 push-ups a day. So my first thing is to say stop doing that, because that's too much volume. You're going to hurt yourself, and you already have. So, I can't tell you how long ago I wrote the article, Stop Doing Daily Push-Ups and Pull-Ups. In fact, I'll pull it up for you. Yeah. Why you shouldn't do pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups daily. In fact, I've probably written about it 5 different times here. And if you're doing it for if you're doing it for 10 days, for example, probably not too long. Like, your body can probably handle 10 days of it. But if you're doing it for months, you're going to start injuring yourself. And you have what's called an overuse injury, period. So I'm not sure why you're doing that many. Um, but think about the imbalances that you're creating by doing this all the time. If you're doing this and not doing pull-ups, or not doing reverse flies, or anything of the upper back to pull you back a little bit, you're going to be internally rotated like this, and just almost be hunched over from it. You might have a big chest, but your shoulders are going to scroll in on you. Now you're imbalanced, and now you're going to get injured just by doing push-ups. So you got to balance that stuff out. At the most, if you're going to do 400 push-ups for whatever magic reason you think 400 is the right number for you, um, do it every other day, right? Mix in some leg days in there. If you're doing 400 push-ups, you might be skipping leg day. Don't skip leg day. So, mix in some pull-ups, mix in some push-ups, mix in some plank poses, reverse flies, rows. Rows are probably one of the most important things you need to do if you're doing that many push-ups every other day. I don't recommend doing it every day at all. It's just going to make you hurt, and next thing you know, you're going to start seeing negative results in your push-up scores. So, sorry to be harsh on that, but that's the way it goes. Been doing it for 9 days. That's good. Don't do it for more than 10. Stop. And now that you're hurt, you should probably stop now anyway. So, in fact, I have a daily pull-up and push-up protocol that you do it for 10 days, take 3 days off, and test on day 14. So, my advice for you is try this. Try taking 3 days off, take 4 days off if you want. On day 14, test yourself and see if you've improved. Now, if you're hurting, don't test yourself, because that's just going to make you hurt more. But take 4 days off. Stop doing push-ups. Stop doing any pushing whatsoever. You can do pull. You can do legs. You can go cardio stuff, but just lay off all pushing and overhead presses and all that for the next 3 to 4 days. Test on day 14 and see where you are. I think that may be, you may actually improve your push-ups. But if you're going for more than that, you're going to see negative results in your push-ups. In fact, read this. It's a daily protocol, push-ups, Stu Smith. It's called the push-up push, but it's also some people call it the Smith protocol. Check this out. You do it for pull-ups and push-ups. And it's free. How about that? Right? Can't argue with the price. Good morning, Stu. For the 110-1 pull-up pyramids, what kind of rest in between are we following? In between exercises are we following? Enough to be fully rested for the next set, or a set time? Well, I will tell you this. If you're starting off at 1, 2, 3, 4, you may find you don't need a lot of rest, right? It's not that hard. I mean, it's kind of a warm-up going into till you get to 6 maybe. And then 7, 8, 9, 10 get really hard. 9, 8, 7, 6, maybe a little challenging. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1's a nice little cool down. Because it's a perfect workout. It literally is a warm up, max out, cool down, all built into a nice little 19 set structure. And if you can't do 19 sets, turn around whenever you fail and come back down. But to be honest with you, I don't really rest much. If you arrange the pull up, push up, sit up, dip, maybe run every set for a couple 100 yards, that's your rest. You're going to be resting by working other muscle groups. So to be honest with you, you don't sit around waiting for the next set like you're on a bench press, trying not to lose your bench press because you get up and go do something else. Sometimes you got to stay on that bench press and wait till your rest period's over if you want to lift really heavy. But this isn't lifting heavy. It is kind of better to go into this a little bit unrested, because we're trying to build muscle stamina and endurance when we do these calisthenics pull-up pyramids. All right. You know what? I forgot. I got CSS videos to share. I knew I was forgetting something. Let's share some videos. I can't remember if I shared this one last week or not. I might have. If I did, I'm sorry. But let's see what we got here. Got some cool shorts, that's for sure. Kick off the wall, streamline, double arm pull looks good. Little bit loose on the recovery. Notice that. See how his arms are like way out there? Yeah, those hands should be touching his torso all the way up. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. Still, yeah, it could be a little tighter on the recovery. Definitely. Got a good whip kick there. Good streamline. Not bad. He's just going a little slow. I would say this is let me see what's his total time here. It's not too bad. It's sub 9. So this is a sub 9 swim. Right at probably about a 850 pace. Oh, I remember. Yeah, I did show this one last week because I remember why. You guys see this kick? Check out this kick. He's doing a strong side kick on his weak side. Notice that top leg is going backwards. Like you see how it's like he's rotating to do a scissor kick. That's the same one as this one. That, right? So he's facing us. So he's on his right side. Now he's facing us on his left side, but notice that kick. So it's a pretty subtle thing there. If you know what you're doing, you kind of say, "Oh, that's what you're doing wrong." Because the reason why, I mean, it's still a good swim, but if he were to do multiple laps of this, it would not be that good because he would have issues with just front leg, top leg, bottom leg stamina issues. Kick would probably get weaker because he's doing the same kick the whole time. Changing arms to pull, that's one thing. But I will say this, in a 500-yard swim, doing the same kick every time is not that big a deal. But it is a very big deal if he doesn't fix this and learn to swim with both sides with the top leg going forward on both sides. Because if you're doing it for 2 miles, it's going to make a difference. 500, not that big a difference. Like if I didn't fix this, he could still probably do a sub 9 with that kick and be okay with it. But don't necessarily recommend it. All right, let's see. Get back to sharing my screen. All right, here we go. Okay, kicking off the wall. That, look how far the hands are far apart. You don't want to swim like that, right? That is flying like Superman almost. Heads up, arms out this way, right? One hand on top of the other. Keep your head down. You're going to be a lot more streamlined if you do that. You got to think of yourself like a torpedo, not a plow. You don't want to plow the water. So, man, did I show this one last time too? See that top arm? I think I found a whole bunch of videos that I've already shown. But anyway, if you guys missed the last few weeks, that is an illegal swim, mainly because it is an overhand recovery. Like this has to be an underwater recovery. Top arm, bottom arm kick, and that top arm needs to recover underwater like the breaststroke would. Can't do this. They would call you on that. That's beyond sharking. That is like actually, at least when you shark, your hands in the water and it's potentially legal, but that makes it not an underwater recovery stroke. Let me do another one while I'm here. Then we'll get back to some of your questions. This is smooth. Oh, not that smooth. Notice how high he pops his head up. So whenever he turns to breathe, he pulls that bottom arm way out in front, and it pauses him in a way that he's just kind of like stuck there, not really moving. So he pops his head up vertically, a little too much. And by turning to breathe versus popping up to breathe like that, see that? Like you quit moving. Oh, he changed sides. Top arm, bottom arm, kick glide. This is actually a little better. Um, like he's keeping his head in the water a little bit more, but a couple times he pops his head up pretty high. Um, and you want to turn to breathe like you're doing freestyle, not pop your head up like you're doing breaststroke. That's where a lot of people screw this up. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. Got a smooth glide. I like that. Good arm pull, good kick. Just got to turn to breathe a little better. What I would recommend doing is turning now, like turn with that top arm and breathe with the bottom arm. You can see he's kind of turning and popping his head up with the bottom arm pull versus turning with the top, faces out of the water. Now all he has to do is pull that bottom arm and inhale, and it's just a lot smoother when you do it that way. Let me see if I got any more. I think that's it. So unfortunately, I showed you some ones I showed last night. I had a third one, but it didn't go through. Oh, you know what? I have some that I downloaded. I bet I can find them on my downloads section. So we'll see. Yep, they pulled up nicely here. All right, so I'll save that one for a minute. Let's see what we got here for questions. Swim always drains me. By the time I get to the run, I'm spent. I need to work on form. Yeah, probably need to work on form overall. You need to work on conditioning. But yeah, technique and conditioning goes hand in hand, and maybe even a fueling strategy. Because if you're burning a lot of blood sugar while you're swimming and doing calisthenics, and you got nothing left on the run, chances are it's a fueling issue. Could be a conditioning issue too, but just need some fuel. Maybe sip on some carbs while you're doing the calisthenics and stuff. So let's see. What's your time 50 meters using breaststroke kick versus scissor kick? Mine personally, I'm okay at breaststroke now. I used to not be. So I just don't like it compared to the scissor kick just because I've been doing it for way too long. Scissor kick versus breaststroke. But I'm close. I think I'm faster, definitely faster with my scissor kick versus breaststroke kick. But I can do a 50-second 50 with breaststroke, but I can get my CSS down to 45, 44 with a scissor kick. It's just more powerful for me. My hips are designed to do this, not this. All right, let's do another video. Forgot I have two more now. All right, you guys should be able to see this, and boom. Not bad. Good turnaround. Kickoff, I mean, top arm, bottom arm, kick. Oh, too big of a kick. Notice, see how high that top leg goes and how little the back leg goes back? Back leg looks pretty good. Probably should be like, if you notice, that top leg really reaches out way too far. You bring it up nicely and then you whip it out, whip it down pretty good, but it doesn't need to be that big. Like, you don't need to bring it up that high. Yeah, just make it a little smaller. I'll try to show you one of a little smaller kick. See if that helps. Another video here. It's not a great one. I'll show you one. All right, let's see what we got here. Kick off the wall. All right, so already I can see before we even start, notice his biceps are out like this, right? He's got hands touching, which is good, but this is not as streamlined as this. Like you want your biceps squeezing your head, and I would do that if I didn't have these headphones on. Yeah. So top arm, let's see, double arm pull, not bad. Transitions into the stroke. So got a good top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. We got to work on your elbow mobility or something. I know it's not your biceps like causing you to not straighten your arms, but maybe you have some immobility in that right arm. Got to work on being able to straighten your arm, especially for push-ups. We won't ever pass a push-up test. So top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. You got the timing down, but if you notice, you should be turning with the top, like your face should be out of the water. Let me tell you where your face should be out of the water now. Like your face should be out of the water by the time your hand reaches your waist. You know, you take another second, and what you do is you cram turning your head, breathing, and bottom arm pulling all into one motion versus you could top arm turn, get two things done with one motion, and then all you have to do is inhale and pull with the bottom arm. But now you're doing three things at once versus two things at once, and it just jams up the whole process. You can kind of see it here. Yeah, we got to work on that elbow. Like I have not seen that elbow straighten at all. Maybe you have some elbow issues you got to deal with. How was pool comp for you at Buds? You know what? Got I got it the first time. I was very happy. So here's what happens when you get it the first time. So you do everything right, you pass, you say, whew, because now they don't have anything to do with you. They got to test everybody else in the class. So if you're one of the first guys to finish, um, they just make you go to the shallow end and just dive your rig until it's done. So you're going to go all the way until there's a little squeaking alarm that occurs when you're down to 0 psi on your twin 80s. So you're just swimming in the circles, but you're high-fiving everybody for finishing underwater, and everybody's pumped up. It's a really cool thing, but you can also look down at the 9-foot section, which is right next to it if you're swimming the edge, and you see them just beating up your classmates with the pool comp, or OC8 they call it now. Um, you just kind of watch them, you know, work through all the procedures, and it's kind of entertaining, be honest with you. But then you look up and you see the guys who failed, and you feel bad for them, and they get a second turn, they get a third turn, and then they get the whole weekend, because usually you do this on a Friday. They get the whole weekend to think about it, and if they fail on Monday, they're out of the class. They get rolled or dropped depending on their situation. But yeah, it's all about following procedures, practicing all those procedures in your head over and over again. You get time to practice it, so it's difficult, and it's easy to screw up. And I think that's where many people fail, is they just make a bad decision. I almost did, but I caught myself, and the instructor even saw it. He saw me catch myself, and he's like, "That was a good catch, because I was about to fail you if you'd have continued on." So could it be the one leg is stronger than the other? I don't know. Could be. All right. So that's my last CSS video I have. Do you guys have any final questions for me? If you don't, that's fine. Think of them for a second, but I'll just go ahead with the closing of this video. And then if a question pops up, I'll answer it. If I missed your question, you can always email me, stu@stewsmith.com. Happy to answer those questions. If you have a video to send me to critique, happy to do that as well over there. Or you can DM me over on Instagram, and I can get that video. But try to, if you're going to send me a video, send it, of someone walking alongside the pool with you down and back. Give me 50 yards or 50 meters. Let me know if it's a yard or meter pool too, because that makes a difference. Because if you do 50 meters in 50 seconds, right, I might say, oh, that's pretty good. That's a yard per second. Where if you're doing a meter per second, you're doing really well, because it's 54 yards in a 50-meter pool. So if you think you're not hitting you're not hitting a yard per second, you might be in a meter pool, and now you have a window of 54 seconds. So if you're in a 25-meter pool and you're going down and back, that's going to be 54 yards when you get back to the lap zone. So you actually, if you're doing 54 yards in 54 seconds, you're swimming a yard per second, and you only have to swim 450 meters, so 9 laps versus 10 laps to get 500 yards. So that's one of those things I've seen people not realize when they were swimming, and they screwed it up. Now, where it really messes you up for the Navy guys, that's awesome, because they actually make up almost a minute. For the Air Force guys, it really sucks, because if they thought they were in a meter pool, but they're in a yard pool, so now they're doing 450 yards versus, or sorry, they're doing 450 meters versus 500 meters. Makes a big difference. So they have to add an extra lap to get 500 meters, whereas the Navy guys have to reduce a lap to get 500 yards. It's that big a difference. So now now you're smarter. All right, so everybody's saying thanks. Thank you. Thanks for sticking around. Use live15 coupon code over at StuSmithFitness.com. You will save 15% on whatever you want. We got books, we got ebooks, we got coaching programs, we got a new 80-minute video course that talks about the 2 phases of tactical fitness, getting to and getting through, a little more in depth than say a live Q&A discusses. That's a good little program as well. So you guys check out over there, StuSmithFitness.com. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to hook you up, answer those questions. See you next week. Have a good one.